YTPC, Padre Piper taken to the virtual airwaves of the YouTube Pipe community just to say hi and to do a bit of a video response to Eddie Nook. That's not right. Eddie Gray at the Pipe Nook. We'll get that right. A video response to Eddie Gray at the Pipe Nook. This is perhaps one of the most enjoyable video responses that in the history of the YTPC. Just watching folks talk about music, I find that to be quite enjoyable. A little bit of housekeeping before we get underway today, and I share some of my musical favorites. Smoking some Orlick Golden Sliced in this here unfinished Savinelli, this author shape. There's a whole video series about this on my channel, unfortunately, about acquiring this particular pipe. Pardon me while I light. And while I tamp. And I apologize for the lighting. It's after dark here in Drew's shed. Ha, just kidding. It's my shed. But yeah, there's not much in it. Drew has more in his. And here comes Super Dog. That's Annie, wagging her tail into the table that I've got the camera set up on. And continuing with the housekeeping, the Orlick Golden Sliced in my Savinelli III series. Got a little bit of the good stuff this evening as I'm relaxing after work. This is a Bombay Blue Saphire martini, and my doctor has recommended that I increase my fiber intake, and so we're going with three olives tonight. You know, I've only had one sip of this thing, and I've already fumbled on my words, calling Eddie Gray Eddie Nook, but anyway, 3 olives. That was supposed to be the punchline to that little joke. And let's talk about music for this video response for the Pipe Nook. Now, I tried to compile a list of things and people and albums and stuff that comes to mind, and what ended up happening is on my list there's absolutely nothing from the 21st century, and I guess that's probably not all that surprising to most folks who are kind of cohorts of mine. And these are in no particular order. I just tried to think about the top 5 albums that I enjoyed listening to and would still go to today, and actually still do. Now have them on CD since I don't have vinyl anymore. And the first one that comes to mind was one of the first rock albums I had as a kid. I loved it. I wore it out. And a few years ago, actually right around Halloween time, I went and purchased it on CD and have been jamming out with it ever since from time to time. And it's the album Dressed to Kill by Kiss. Just an incredible full-out rock and roll album from the 1970s, and you know, that's really when I guess I was quite a youngster, probably more of a child of the 80s, but definitely this is one of my first rock albums that I ever owned. Now, one of the ones that I enjoyed listening to, still do, in fact, I love to go onto YouTube and to watch videos of this guy remaking some of the songs from this particular album. I think it was around the summer, I think it was the summer of 76, so that would be 40 years ago. The album was called Frampton Comes Alive, Peter Frampton, and just a prolific guitarist, an incredible musician, still gets it done today. It's one of those albums that still brings me great joy to just crank up. Number 3 on that list, sticking in the 70s, is this one, A Night at the Opera by Queen. Now, there's a whole bunch of Queen albums I could put on that list. I grew up hearing a lot of Queen, mostly because it was my brother's favorite band, but something about A Night at the Opera. And I almost put News of the World on there instead, but I'm giving the nod to A Night at the Opera by Queen. That's my number 3. Moving into the 80s, this is, when I think of the 80s, the quintessential sort of album / band / hairdo of the 80s. has to go to Duran Duran and the album Rio. And that's another one, I think, from side A to side B, track one all the way to the end. That album Rio, I could probably still sing all the lyrics to you. You don't want to hear me do that, but that's number 4. And then number 5, this is where it's going to get a little bit on the perhaps, I don't know, maybe esoteric side or a little bit obscure. Some folks may have heard of this, others may not. There was a songwriter and guitarist from Scotland by the name of Roddy Frame. He had a band called Aztec Camera. And the album Highland Hard Rain, definitely on my tops a couple years ago. Ended up replacing that. I say replacing it because I had it on cassette and I also had it on LP long time ago. And now have it on CD and still love listening to that. Highland Hard Rain by Aztec Camera, songwriter Roddy Frame from Scotland. Incredible sort of 80s new wavy kind of artsy, folksy rock. And then some honorable mentions. Anything by Boston. I was blessed to see the Boston Third Stage Tour. I guess that was in 1987-ish, I believe. They came to Baton Rouge when I was an undergraduate at LSU. They played that album in the concert. Track 1 all the way through to the last track. That was the entire they just played the album straight through for the concert. Then they came out for the encore and they did some of the some of the older stuff from the first 2 albums. And I just remember Smokin' was just phenomenal. They did that incredible live. Also giving some honorable mention to anything by David Bowie. Always been a Bowie fan and just really loved his work, and sad to see that he has left us in this world, but leaves behind an incredible library of music for us. And then here's one final honorable mention, Get the Knack. Do you remember that album by The Knack? My Sharona, Good Girls Don't. I used to rock and roll to that one. So that's a little bit about me. I love talking about music. I used to love spinning music when I did my DJ time. Both mobile and on the radio. You're listening to The Top of the Rocks at the top of the charts. It's the top of the hour, 8 p.m., and we're laying down some new tracks from fill in the blank. Anyway, used to love playing, still love playing music. Really only kind of do it for church these days, but music's just one of those things. My first instrument I ever learned was in 5th grade, I believe it was. I started to study the trumpet. And from there, later in high school, trumpet and baritone are similar fingerings, both in B flat. So I did some concert band stuff in baritone and became a percussionist and play some keys and play a little bit of guitar. Not very well, but just love music. And to Eddie, I really thank you for having this giveaway. Good luck to everyone who's entering. And boy, that first prize is sweet. And it would be nice to win that. Somebody's going to. And that's good stuff. So anyway, just thought I'd share that with you this evening. Going to finish enjoying my Orlick Golden Sliced and my Bombay Blue Saphire with the extra fiber. One more sip before I say this. Padre Piper, wishing you and yours God's peace, grace, and blessings.